The Olympics has made a move to ban trans women and cis female athletes with, quote, male levels of testosterone from competing.
If that sounds fake and like something that didn't happen, it's because it is fake and definitely did not happen. We're going to tackle the latest fake news coming from LGBT influencers who are not coping well with some actually positive developments in the world of sports and the Olympics and so much more on today's episode of the Brad vs. Everyone podcast, my daily show where I take on all the craziest ideas from across the internet and social media, all from an independent perspective. Like I mentioned, we got to check in with the world of the alphabet people, the Wi-Fi password community, whatever you want to call them, over on TikTok, because they're responding to a news development, which is this reporting suggesting that the Olympic Committee will be taking steps to restrict trans women and also intersex athletes. So basically anybody who is genetically or biologically male from competing in women's sports. I think a win for sanity, definitely an 80-20 issue. However, LGBT influencers are running with a doomsday kind of panicked narrative about this that is not real or true, and we're going to take a listen to it. Up first, we're going to hear from our orange-haired, transgender-identifying friend over on TikTok. Our first video, let's buckle up and take a listen.
So the Olympics is banning trans women from competing and also cis athletes with male levels of testosterone. And while it sucks to see institutions such as the Olympics banning trans women off of hysterics, I want to really point out the fact that they are also banning cisgendered women. The entire argument of this fucking trans sports craze is that trans women have a biological advantage, right? So why are you banning cisgendered women? If, because if this like anti-trans people in sports movement is truly about protecting the sanctity of women's sports, why are you banning cisgendered women from sports? Like, if you're going to be exclusionary for a reason, like, at least hold up to that. But also, this entire craze of banning people from sports is just so fucking interesting to me, because at what point did we decide that sports are meant to be fair?
Guys, it genuinely bewilders me that people are still doing this. They're still beating this dead horse, clinging to this indefensible lunacy of biologically male people in women's sports. Now, it wasn't just this one influencer. A bunch of them took this screenshot of a headline from a super far left LGBTQ news website, Them, and shared it. And that headline says, Olympics move to ban trans women and cis female athletes with male levels of testosterone. That is what they're going with. And they're claiming that, they got caught up in this craze and now they're banning cis women too. This isn't true. This isn't real, or at least it's only real if you accept a definition of cis women that is meaningless and includes biological males. So the truth is that what they are doing is they are potentially, this policy, if it goes through, would prohibit biologically male people from competing in women's sports. So that would include trans women, but it would also include some people, and the most famous example of this is the boxer Iman Khalif, who aren't trans in the traditional sense because they appear female on the exterior. They have external female sex organs and that kind of thing, but they are genetically male because they have an intersex condition, a difference of sexual development, a rare genetic condition basically. But they are genetically male. They are XY chromosome or some other variation. It gets very complicated and scientific, but basically the policy would ban people who are genetically male. And that would include cis women in the sense that these people were assigned female at birth incorrectly by doctors and then still identify as female. So under this definition of cis, which has never meant anything, then you're banning cis women. No, the truth is they're banning males, biological genetic males from women's sports. That's all that's happening here. And there is no remotely coherent way to reframe that as an attack on women's rights or as excluding and punishing cis women who look too masculine or anything of the sort. They're not being tested for their hormone levels. This is not what would happen. They would be tested for their genetic sex. That's all we're talking about here. And God forbid you do that, so you don't have situations like Iman Khalif, who again is not a trans woman, but is genetically male, beating the crap out of women in boxing and just destroying the competition and winning Olympic gold. Clearly, that is insane and unfair and challenges the legitimacy and integrity of women's sports. So it makes a lot of sense that the Olympics would take this step. But of course, they don't want to actually argue or engage with what's really happening, so they concoct an imaginary version of it to get all worked up about and get people up in arms. And it actually gets worse with the second video, because the second video is from a supposed journalist, UnderTheDeskNews, a TikTok famous journalist who spreads tons of woke misinformation. And we're going to get into it. But first, guys, do make sure to subscribe, to hit the like button, comment with your thoughts. And remember to send in your voicemails for my Voicemail Friday episodes, where I react to your woke horror stories, give you advice on your personal lives, and answer your questions. The link to send in one of those is in the description. Now, guys, let's take a second and look at Under the Desk News' video about all this, which I'm sure is going to be totally accurate and normal and not at all hysterical or deranged. Let's look.
The Olympics has made a move to ban trans women and cis female athletes with, quote, male levels of testosterone from competing. This new rule could go into effect as early as February of 2026, when the Winter Olympics will be held in Italy. Now, transgender women not being allowed to compete in the women's category. Let's put that aside for just one quick second. Let's talk about the idea that testosterone is what makes you male or female.
Well, we can talk about that idea. However, you are misrepresenting or not being accurate or honest if you're claiming that that is what the Olympic Committee is doing. They may be prohibiting women with unnaturally high levels of testosterone, but not because of their testosterone levels, but because they're genetically male. That is the exclusion criteria. Again, you're just parroting misinformation here.
You male or female. Now, it's worth noting that they are not putting the same rules in place for men, saying that men can't compete if they have higher levels of estrogen, or
Huh. I can't take these people seriously. Why would that be? Why would they not enact these same rules for men and worry about their estrogen levels? It's almost because testosterone would make you more competitive in sports and provide an unfair advantage, but estrogen wouldn't do the same for men. You know, why do I have to explain basic biology to the follow the science crowd over and over and over again? But they still refuse to get it. It's kind of maddening sometimes.
or men have to fit within a certain band of testosterone. The other complicating factor here is that there is not a single test that gives you a perfect, here's what your T level is. It changes, not just by person and by ethnicity, but also by time of the month.
But you know what's great about genetic sex testing? Doesn't change. Can be done with a cheek swab, actually. So, again, we're just spreading misinformation and trying to muddy the waters here to cast doubt on an incredibly commonsensical policy.
Month. Your testosterone levels may be lower during your period and higher at other points. So, like, what are you going to test every single day and take an average? Naturally, African American women and Native Hawaiians have higher levels of testosterone. This is what we said when we warned people that the attempt to ban trans people from sports would not end with trans people.
So this is dishonest and maddening for a couple of reasons, because there is no such thing, and I've made this point over and over again, as an attempt to ban trans people from sports. They're allowed to compete, but they just have to compete according to their biological sex, not their self-identity. That's what we're talking about. Nobody's saying they should just be point blank banished from athletics. That would be cruel. I've also said that it personally, at least for me, doesn't bother me if trans men who are biologically female compete in the male category, because they're only putting themselves at a disadvantage. But this idea that it's not going to stop at trans people, it will also affect non-trans people, is not really true, in the sense that the only people who will be excluded by this policy are people who are biologically or genetically male. So by definition, that doesn't include women or females, and it's the female sport. Am I just missing the part that's supposed to be so horrifyingly controversial or problematic about that? Is it just going over my head? I don't know.
And it's honestly just a shame that we are still doing this. Gender tests like this inevitably lead to genital inspections. And that shit creeps me out, okay? Haven't we seen enough sex abuse in athletics? Do you really want your middle school daughter who just wants to play softball with her friends to have to undergo a genital exam? And who does those exams? The coaches? The school nurse? No.
This bothers me because it is such dishonest fear-mongering and propaganda. No, you can do sex testing with a cheek swab, people, and then send it away and it will come back and let you know the chromosome situation of that athlete or individual. And as far as the high school level, which is not what we're talking about here, athletes already have to get physicals. Physicals are performed by doctors. And yes, it is appropriate and actually literally required that doctors inspect your genitals as part of your physical to make sure that you are developing and there are no issues and you're going through the puberty process in the typical way. And so, yeah, your doctor is going to know what sex you are. And it won't actually be, no coaches or nurses are going to be inspecting this is just shit they made up. That's not a thing. I mean, maybe you can find one crazy example somewhere of some school that did that, but they were being stupid and not actually following the basic policies of common sense that can easily be implemented with something like this. So you are just misleading people to sow discord and panic about what is fundamentally just like a utterly uncontroversial and common sense win for sanity at the Olympics with these new rules. And people are just eating it up. I want to read you a couple comments from this Under the Desk news person. Also, not testing male athletes because misogyny says men are naturally superior athletes and women aren't a threat. That comment is liked by the creator. Today I learned that biology is misogyny, I guess. I don't know. If you want to just pretend that the only reason men are stronger or faster than women in most contexts is because of misogyny, you can do that, but it's not going to be true. Like, reality exists. I don't know what to tell you. The Delulu is showing, and it's off the charts with these people in this comment section, but just thousands upon thousands of impressionable young minds are eating it up. The next one, why is it only women's bodies that are legislated/regulated? It's the very definition of discrimination. This one is funny to me on a couple levels because one, it's like literally not women's bodies that are being regulated in the sense of being kept out of the sport, and those would be male bodies that are being kept out of the sport. But also it's like, it's the definition of discrimination. No, it's preserving the integrity of the women's competition so that female athletes have opportunities to compete. Because if you just had it all be one free-for-all, I mean, if that's what y'all feminists really want, we can talk about it, but it's not going to go well for the female athletes, okay? And so, I don't know, these people just seem determined to not get it. Another person commented, as a woman with high testosterone due to PCOS, it's like being told you're not a real woman if you don't fall within these parameters, which is insane. Liked again by the creator. Thankfully, no one is actually saying this. What they're saying is that if you are genetically male, then you are genetically male and shouldn't compete in women's sports. Nobody's saying that having a higher than usual testosterone level makes you not a woman. That's not a thing, but this is the problem. Disinformation or misinformation being spread by these TikTokers convinces thousands upon thousands of people of things that upset them that literally aren't true and aren't happening. Other than that, though, they're doing amazing. I mean, the discourse on TikTok really seems just dedicated to misunderstanding and miseducating people about even the most uncontroversial things. It's almost impressive, really. But what do you guys think? Let me know in the comments. Make sure subscribed if you aren't yet. Hit the like button and all of that.